Starting feels heavy, not because you're lazy, not because you lack discipline, and not because there's something wrong with you. Starting feels heavy because your mind is carrying more weight than you realize. Every time you think about beginning something important, your brain doesn't see a simple action. It sees uncertainty, it sees effort, it sees risk, it sees the possibility of failure, judgment, wasted time, and emotional discomfort. And the brain is designed to avoid those things by default. So the heaviness you feel before starting isn't resistance to work. It's resistance to the unknown. You tell yourself you just need motivation. You wait to feel ready. You wait for confidence. You wait for the right moment. But the truth is, that moment almost never comes. And the longer you wait, the heavier starting feels. Because delay adds weight. Every day you don't start, the task grows bigger in your mind. The story around it grows louder. You begin attaching meaning to it. You tell yourself this thing will change everything, that it has to be done perfectly, that you can't mess it up. And without realizing it, you turn a simple beginning into an emotional mountain. That's why starting feels so heavy. Not because the task is hard, but because you've made it important before you've made it small. Your brain doesn't struggle with action. It struggles with pressure. Think about the times you act without hesitation. You don't overthink brushing your teeth. You don't negotiate with yourself before checking your phone. You don't feel heavy opening an app or replying to a message. Those actions feel light because there's no emotional weight attached to them. No expectations, no identity risk, no fear of judgment. But when something matters to you, when it touches your future, your self-image, or your sense of worth, your brain slows you down. It wants to protect you. It wants to keep you safe from disappointment and regret. So it creates hesitation. And hesitation feels like heaviness. You sit there thinking about starting. Minutes pass, hours pass, sometimes days. And the longer you think, the worse it gets. Because thinking without acting doesn't create clarity. It creates mental noise. Your mind begins running scenarios. What if it doesn't work? What if I'm not good enough? What if I start and don't finish? What if people notice? What if I waste time? None of these thoughts help you start. They only make starting heavier. This is why people confuse overthinking with preparation. They believe they're getting ready, but they're actually draining their energy before the work even begins. By the time they try to start, they're already tired, not physically, mentally. And mental fatigue makes even small actions feel impossible. Here's the part most people don't understand. Your brain doesn't need motivation to start. It needs certainty. When a task feels unclear, the brain resists. When it feels defined, the brain relaxes. When the path forward is vague, starting feels heavy. When the next step is obvious, starting feels light. This is why massive goals paralyze people. Change my life, get disciplined, build a business, fix everything. These ideas sound inspiring, but they're too big for the brain to process as actions. The brain can't move toward abstractions, it moves toward specifics. So when you try to start something big all at once, your brain freezes. It doesn't know where to begin, so it chooses not to begin at all. That choice feels like procrastination, but it's actually confusion. The weight you feel isn't laziness, it's the absence of a clear first step. Think about this carefully. The brain is comfortable with motion, not magnitude. It doesn't care how meaningful the task is. It cares how manageable the next action feels. When the next action is small and defined, starting feels easy. When it's vague and overwhelming, starting feels heavy. This is why people can scroll endlessly but can't write one paragraph. Why they can clean an entire house instead of making one important phone call. Why they stay busy but avoid what matters. Busy feels safe, important feels risky, and risk creates weight. Another reason starting feels heavy is because you're trying to start and finish at the same time. You sit down to begin, but your mind jumps ahead. It imagines the full journey, the effort required, the consistency needed, the possibility of giving up halfway. And suddenly, starting feels like committing your entire future. But starting isn't a commitment to finish, it's a commitment to begin. Your brain doesn't want lifelong promises. It wants short, survivable actions. When you tell yourself, I'll just do 5 minutes, the brain relaxes. When you tell yourself, I have to do this every day forever, it resists. So the heaviness isn't about today's work, It's about the future you're dragging into the present. You're not failing to start because you can't do the work. You're failing to start because you're asking your brain to carry too much at once. There's another hidden layer to this. Starting feels heavy when your identity is tied to the outcome. When success means I'm capable and failure means I'm not, every action feels dangerous. You're no longer just starting a task, you're testing your worth. That's an unbearable weight for the mind. So it delays, it distracts, it finds excuses. Not because it doesn't want growth, but because it fears damage. This is why perfectionism and procrastination often live together. Perfectionism raises the stakes. Procrastination avoids the pain of falling short. The solution isn't more pressure, it's less meaning. You don't need to care less about your future. You need to care less about this one attempt. Starting becomes lighter when the outcome stops defining you. When you see action as practice instead of proof. When effort becomes exploration, not judgment. When starting is allowed to be messy. Momentum is built by imperfect beginnings, not flawless plans. Most people wait to feel confident before starting, but confidence doesn't come before action. It comes from surviving action, from proving to yourself that you can begin even when it feels uncomfortable. Confidence is a side effect, not a prerequisite. Another reason starting feels heavy is because you're starting alone in your head. When you keep goals private, thoughts echo. Doubts grow louder. There's no external anchor pulling you forward. Everything happens internally, and internal resistance is harder to fight than external structure. This is why deadlines work, why accountability works, why routines work. They remove decision-making, they reduce friction, they make starting automatic instead of emotional. The less you have to decide, the lighter starting feels. Starting feels heavy when it requires willpower. Starting feels light when it's part of a system. If you rely on motivation, you will always struggle. Motivation fluctuates, systems don't. When starting is scheduled, constrained, and expected, it stops feeling dramatic. It becomes normal, and normal actions don't feel heavy. Think about this. You don't wait to feel inspired to eat. You don't need motivation to sleep. You don't negotiate brushing your teeth. Those actions are light because they're embedded into your life. The goal isn't to feel motivated. The goal is to make starting boring, because boring is easy. Another overlooked truth is that starting feels heavy when you're emotionally exhausted. If your days are filled with constant stimulation, stress, noise, and comparison, your mind has no space left. Even simple tasks feel overwhelming when your mental battery is drained. You might think you're lazy, but you're actually overstimulated. A tired mind resists effort, even meaningful effort. That's why rest alone doesn't always fix procrastination. Scrolling isn't rest, it's more input. True mental rest creates clarity, and clarity reduces resistance. When your mind is quieter, starting feels lighter. Now here's the shift that changes everything. Starting doesn't require energy, it creates energy. Action generates momentum. Momentum reduces resistance. Resistance disappears once movement begins. But you can't think your way into motion, you have to move first. The hardest part of any task isn't the work, it's crossing the starting line. Once you begin, the weight lifts. Not completely, but enough to continue. That's why people often say, once I started, it wasn't that bad. That's not a coincidence, that's biology. The brain rewards movement with focus. It releases energy once it senses progress. But it won't do that before you act. So if starting feels heavy, stop waiting for the feeling to change. Let the action change the feeling. Shrink the start until it feels almost pointless. One sentence, 1 minute, one small step. Not because it's all you'll do, but because it's all you need to begin. Starting isn't about intensity, it's about permission. Permission to be bad, permission to stop early, permission to learn as you go. When you remove the demand for excellence, starting becomes possible. When you remove the fear of judgment, starting becomes light. When you stop asking your future self to carry today's burden, starting becomes simple. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to feel confident. You don't need to feel motivated. You just need to begin small enough that your brain doesn't resist. Because the heaviness you feel isn't a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're trying to start the wrong way. The moment you redefine starting, the weight lifts. And once you experience that again and again, your relationship with action changes. Starting no longer feels like a threat, it feels like relief. And that's when progress becomes inevitable. If you want to go deeper, continue with the next video in this series. This is only the beginning. If this message hit you, subscribe, watch the next video, it connects to this one.